So thank you all again for joining in this webinar. RC is going to talk about the newest features, tools, and all the improvements that are coming in Photoshop and Lightroom in 2025. So whether you're a seasoned photographer, a passion designer, or you guys are just curious and learning what's upcoming, this webinar is going to be perfect for you. So without further ado, please welcome Rafael Concepcion, otherwise known as RC. A little bit about RC is he's a BenQ ambassador, Adobe certified instructor in Photoshop, Illustrator, and Lightroom, a digital post-production specialist, adjunct professor at the Newhouse School for Visual Communications at Syracuse. He's also an award-winning photographer and is a best-selling author. So RC, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much. So welcome everybody. So glad to see everybody from here over here. I'm just kind of jumping in here. We're neighbors. Yeah, we are. So I am at Syracuse University, John Seltzer, Long Island. Ooh, I miss Long Island. So let's see. So I would say this, when we start working with all of this, I want to be able to keep this as something that is going to be beneficial to you, right? So anytime that you can bring up something or bring up a question, or you could say, hey, listen, I was thinking about doing this one thing, or I want to be able to work on this one thing. If there's something that we can work with, that we can share, by all means, we want to be able to answer your questions. So I do want to kind of spend some time uh, talking about some of the new features, but the new features are only about as good as whether or not we actually can do some work with it in a real scenario. I kind of want to start this conversation, and we do this all the time, and we have these conversations where we say, all right, well, can we set up an environment where we can have a constant dialogue, right? Before we start anything, I'll say that one of my favorite things is the fact that BenQ's always been really, really good about just turning around and being like, yo, do you want to do something? What do you want to do? And they're like, just tell us what you want to do and we'll do it. So I've been very grateful to them for that, right? And because of that, I want to be able to make sure that we can do this as often as we can to answer the questions that we want, right? So that's the first thing that kind of wanted to that I wanted to kind of just bring up, because I was like, look, there's a lot of stuff that we could be doing, but rather than just kind of sitting around and going, well, here's a feature and here's another feature and here's another feature, I kind of want to make sure that we're answering questions that you would all have. So keep that in mind. In the event that you have something, just please make sure that you pop that into the chat so that we could make sure that we answer that for you. Now, one of the first things that we're going to do here is I want to be able to just talk a little bit about Lightroom. I mean, a majority of the stuff that I tend to do happens to be on the Lightroom side. So I figured this would be a good place for us to be able to start. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and just put some stuff here. And let's go ahead and do this. We are the closed captions, Green Bay. Oh, Jim's here. Oh, hey, Jim. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump in and just start sharing my desktop. I made my desktop a little bit bigger so that everybody can kind of see what's happening here. Just give me 1 second so I can see your chats in the event. Any comments and questions that you would have, just make sure that you put them into the chat so that I could see them from there. Now, one of the first things that I think that is really cool about what we're working with inside of Lightroom is the whole concept of using masks. But before we even do any of that stuff, one of the things that I think that's really cool is the whole concept of denoising, right? For example, right, this is something that I literally just shot yesterday, right? And I went out and I did some pictures for this play, right? So we're doing a dress rehearsal for a play. Now, if you take a look at the details on here, right, the pictures turned out great. I wanted to be able to use the available light for these shots. Let's go ahead and find a good shot here. So let's say this one thing right here, right? This one picture right here. So I shot this and notice that there's a lot of grain in this one section, right? I am shooting at 2200 ISO. I argue that these days, one of the things that you have that's to your advantage in the world of AI is this whole concept of noise reduction through the use of AI. That opens up a whole bunch of possibilities for using flashes and for using your cameras at higher and higher and higher ISO settings. And it's stuff that you don't necessarily need to worry about anymore, right? Before there, you'd have to come up with some sort of denoising and formulas and all sorts of different ways to be able to get rid of a lot of this noise. And now it's a lot easier for us to be able to do that. So if I take a look at this, I'm going to go into the develop module, and inside of the develop module, I'll go ahead and I'll take a look at the picture, right? I'm going to go to 300 just to kind of be able to see what's happening. Let's say right there, right? So once we have that set, oh, I'm not sharing. Let's do this. How about that? Now, inside of here, right? So we have some noise. We have some noise here. We have some noise here. Great. What I want to do is I want to go over here inside of the basic panel, and scrolling down, you'll see down here we have our detail. Now, on the detail panel, you have sharpening and then you have noise reduction. And then you also still have the old school manual noise reduction, right? So if you wanted to do luminance noise reduction, this is a place that you could do it. Or if you had any kind of color noise, this would be a place that you would do it. But for me, what I would do is I would just do this, denoise. So the denoise is using, let's see. Oh, hold up a second. This happens to me all the time. You see this one section here says Smart Preview? That's because I moved this folder of images. Let me just go ahead and show you how to fix that. I'm going to do a right click and I'm going to go to Go To Folder in Library. That shows me where the folder is. I'm going to right click, find the missing folder. I have that folder in here. Once I have that, now we have the original picture.
Hey, RC, quick question came in
Yes.
from Bob. Why would you have objectionable noise at ISO 2200? He usually does not need to reduce noise until at least ISO 6 8000.
Depending on what it is that you're shooting, right? Like this is an Icon D850. Cameras have gotten better. So I'd be very curious as to, Bob, what it is that you're shooting with that's causing that noise or that's giving you that good of a noise. Now, R3, yeah, the R3 does really good in terms of noise. Now, but I argue that a lot of the times we don't really have to worry about a lot of this stuff. Like before we even get into anything else, let me just show you something else. Right? If I go over here and I'm looking at this at 100%, that's actually pretty good in terms of noise reduction or in terms of noise inside of a camera. But if I want to make it better, right, I would go into the develop module. Inside of here, I'll go ahead and I'll go to, let's say 300 just so that we can see it. There's our noise. And I'm going to go to denoise. That is a lot better, right? There's before and after, before and after. Now, obviously, I could go full on TikTok filter if I wanted to and pull a lot of that stuff out. But that's something that would be to taste, right? I'm shooting with a 1DX Mark II till 25.6, make them black and white for concept photography. Yep, that is another thing, right? You can do that and add some grain. I usually like pulling the noise out and then I'll click on enhance, right? This is going to create a DNG using that kind of denoise. Once I have that set, Then what I'll do is I'll add my sharpening back. Keep in mind that whenever you wind up denoising something, you're always going to wind up having something that's going to be a little bit, it's going to feel a little softer. It's not going to be as good as you would want it to. So I will usually go back and start adding a little bit more sharpness into it, and then I'll add a little bit more grain into it. But you're going to notice that you're going to get a lot of really nice noise reduction inside of here with using this. Now, go back over here. Let's go back to this. All right. Much better. Much, much, much better. I'd argue almost a little too much, to be honest. But I wanted to kind of just make sure that we over exaggerated it for this. Now, once we have this set, the next thing that I probably would do for here is probably do a little bit of sharpening. And sharpening is something that people tend not to really work on. I'm going to give you a quick way for you to be able to think about it. When you're sharpening a picture, a lot of the times you're using sharpening, radius, detail, and masking, right? So you sharpen it and you're like, well, I don't really know how much to be able to sharpen something. More often than not, I tell people your Alt or Option, your Alt key or Option key in a Mac, Alt key in a PC is your friend. If you hold on the Alt or Option key and you click, you're going to notice that it temporarily turns into black and white. This allows you to be able to see a little bit better by removing some of that color from the picture. That I think is pretty cool. Now, let it go or back to here. If you go into your radius section, inside of your radius section, you start grabbing this and you start doing radius and you start moving it back and forth. You don't really know what it is that you're doing here, right? So again, Alt, click. When you Alt and click, it's almost kind of like you've done a high pass inside of Photoshop. And this allows you to be able to kind of drag this to the right. And notice that as you start dragging it to the right, you start seeing more and more of the picture. Now, I'm going to zoom out and just bring this into 100% so we can kind of see the difference. Watch. Holding down the Alt key. Right. And the best way for you to be able to think about this, not that we turned this into a sharpening class, but I'm here, may as well. But the best way to be able to think about it is you can add sharpening in two different ways. And this is just a little bit of an oversimplification, but it'll help. You can either add sharpening to whole clusters of areas of a picture, or you can increase sharpening by doing sharpening on the very edges of things. So think of it this way, right? Like if you wanted to be able to sharpen branches on a tree, you'd want to be able to sharpen the very, very edges of a branch, right? If you wanted to sharpen a brick wall, you'd want to sharpen larger areas. So when you are using your radius slider, right? If I were to go back here, let's see. And inside of this, and I use my radius slider and I hold down the Alt key, notice if I drag it to the left, it's almost nothing. As I'm dragging it to the right, you'll start seeing the very edges of the picture. As you drag it more to the right, you'll start seeing more and more and more edges until you get to areas of a picture. So the radius will allow you to taste as you like it to get the setting that you want. Once you have that set, now you're good. Then from here, you can add detail. Again, holding down the Alt key, you'll notice that you can increase and decrease the amount of detail to those areas by holding that down. This is a Nikon. Yes, this is a raw file. So now if we were to take a look at all of this, watch detail. That is a lot more detail inside of our picture. And that denoise feature, I think, is something that's going to be really, really cool. So that in of itself is probably one of the biggest things that they've done with that. Now, the next thing that they've done here that I think is kind of cool is, let's see, I want to find a series of different pictures. So let's say Let me see here. That was a cool. Where'd you go? Yeah, let's go here, right? So some of these are rejected. I could just hit my attribute tab and just go to my pick to make it a lot easier, right? So let's say that I want to use this one, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice that inside of these shots, these people are in different positions. Okay, that's not too bad. I'm going to go into the develop module. Now, inside of the develop module, I have these options here at the very, very top. The newest feature for Lightroom is this one right here. It's our remove tool. If you click on the remove tool, you're going to notice that you can brush over an entire object, including any of the shadows, to be able to get rid of them. Having this set here, notice I can see the size. I can change my size right here, or I can use my left brace and right brace, right? The ones that are under the plus and the minus on the keyboard. And I can create a brush that'll allow me to drag into a specific area. But notice that it didn't grab everything here. That's because, right, if I come back over to this brush tool here, what I want to do is I want to be able to remove, and I can use this object here to detect the objects. Now, once I click in this one area, it can grab the entire object. Right? I'm just going to do that one more time. Right? And just say here and here. And it grabs a lot of that stuff. The other thing that I think is pretty cool is that it gives you the option to add and subtract to this. Before, when you were doing this, you would have to go into your mask, create a mask, get a selection, then add something, then add something, then add something. And it was a bit of a pain. Now it's all in one spot, right? You can add and subtract, then add and subtract, then add and subtract. Once you have that set, you can click on the remove tool here. And what this is doing is it's removing using that generative AI. So now you'll have 1, 2, 3 different types of sections. Now, one of the other things that I usually do is I'll come back over here and then just generate another section. Once I've done that, click on remove. There's option 1, option 2, option 3. I'm going to go with option 3. Come back over here and we're good to go. So that I think makes it really neat. Now, you don't have to use the generative AI stuff, right? Inside of the generative AI, right? If you click on that thing, the terms for the generative AI, take a look. When using our generative AI features, agree you will use them for your creative or not to train. Be respectful, be authentic. So just make sure that you go over this. Now, I am not 100% sure, but if I were to guess, I would say that right now, when they're doing Firefly model stuff, they're charging credits. I would think that at one point, the use of the generative AI here may be something that could be charged. I don't know. But if I had to guess, it would seem like a lot of that stuff is going that way. If that were the case, then from here, you also do have the option to uncheck use generative AI. In that space, now you're not making any changes and it's using your content aware fill, right? So you are using your credits, but the question is, what happens when you're running out of credits? Questions on that so far before we go anywhere else? Do. Using JI changes the points. Got it, got it, got it. Uh, BenQ monitors. Would I go over the BenQ monitors that I recommend today to use with a MacBook Pro? I'll just do that real quick. I'll knock that out while we're here. Oh, that was today. Look, it's my dog. Huh. I'm gonna grab this and I'll put this over here. I just shot that with my phone, but thank you.
It's like you got a good amount of snow back there, RC.
Yeah, there was quite a bit. There was quite a bit. So inside of here, the monitors that I'm using are these photographer monitors, right? The ones that I'm working with are the 32-inch monitors, right? So I'm using this, the 321C. Now, does that mean that you need to get the 321C? Not necessarily, right? I don't want to necessarily jump on BenQ here and go rogue, but I would argue that if you really wanted to maximize the amount of stuff that you're doing in your pictures, I would get the 321C. At bare minimum, I would wind up getting something like this, right? 271, 272 U's, those kinds of things. And here's the reason that I would do that. I just saw it on Instagram from actually a company from Wacom, right? The amount of time that you spend futzing with color is time that it's something that you really, really need to eliminate, right? I want to be able to make sure that when I'm shooting something that it looks exactly the way that I want it to shoot. To that end, I don't want to be guessing, all right, well, it looks good like that here, but then when I put it on my phone, it looks a different way. And then when I print it, uh, then it looks a different way. Zuri, I do not recommend curved monitors for color accuracy and display. So for me, having a bare minimum, something like a 27-inch, 28-inch monitor, so that you could see stuff that's color accurate is invaluable, right? I was telling the BenQ folks that I wanted to be able to do a webinar on how to be able to print using a Pro 1000 and just going, all right, here's the picture, here's the actual print. Oh, why don't I do this? I'm going to turn my video off. Hold up. I'll be right back.
Well, while RC is out for a second, I just wanted to see how you guys are enjoying this so far, and wanted to see if this time works better for everyone than our normal 6 p.m. EST, 3 p.m. PST time. Just let me know if you guys prefer morning, early afternoon, or late afternoon in the chat. RC, welcome back.
Yeah. So here's I wanted to be able to show something because I thought that this was really cool. I'm making these prints that I'm selling, right? And one of the prints that I'm selling is a picture of my mom, right? So take a look. I'm gonna come over here, go to the desktop. Can you guys see that okay? Let's see. I think you can, right? So that is a picture of my mom making tamales. So she's a tamale maker. And that's she's sitting in her living room, right? So that is a picture that I was just like, all right, I'm gonna sell it. Now, I wanted to be able to do a webinar and talk about how to be able to print it, right? So I'm gonna click on stop share. But the webinar, like, there wouldn't be really that much that I could do, I think, right? I'm gonna go to my desktop, pretend like this is the tamale picture. I would go to print, and let's just say that I'm gonna do a single picture. I would go to my page setup, I would set up for my Pro 1000. Down here, I would set up the ICC profile that I'm working on. I usually juice it just a little bit, and then I would set my print settings. That's it. It was like dead on. And I saw it and I was like, this is perfect. Right now, I'm using this is a matte paper. It's kind of hard to see or to do that. It's a Hahnemuhle William Turner. Let me just pull this up. 310 GSM. Where is the Hahnemuhle website for it? So inside of here, share, I'm using something like this fine art matte paper. It's thick. That's the 310 grams per square meter, right? The GSM. It's textured, but it's matte. And it looks gorgeous, right? So each of these prints is like 250 bucks, right? For any of the things that I'm doing. But when somebody gets this in the mail and they're feeling it, like it just has a very awesome feeling to it. And it shows that more uh professional thing. But the fact that it could just go right out of the camera into something like right out of the computer into something like this and look dead on, I thought was awesome. Right. So I'm not the kind of person that wants to spend a lot of time talking about, well, here's the different color matrices and here's how you do this or here's how you do that. If you want to be able to see that, BenQ's got like Art Swansong. That's the dude you could talk to, right? He's fantastic about it. And I can go there, but I don't really think that people want to see me go there. I just want to be able to do this all the time, right? That's what it looks like. That's what I see here. Done. And I also wanted to look good, right? So it's 32 inches. I spent all this money working on prints or working on pictures, thousands of dollars on cameras and all of that kind of stuff. I don't want to just see it here. So I'll leave it up on my computer, walk by it, and I'm like, damn, that is good. Printer. What printer am I using? I'm using the Canon Pro 1000. But anyway, so that was that. I just wanted to show a little bit of a deviation. If you don't know by now, I have horrible ADD. So that's one of those things where it's like I'm becoming more and more comfortable with that. And I wanted to kind of show a little bit about how to be able to do the printing thing. If you guys want to see a quick webinar, a small webinar, I can make a video and send it to you guys. And I can just show you all of the steps. We don't have to make it a full webinar. BenQ could just share that out because I think that'd be kind of neat. You should know how to do that. Now, let me go back to the Lightroom part. So inside of here, other things that I think that would be cool. Gary O'Brien. Yes, that's my goal for printing. Gary, I'd be happy to. I like one of the things that I think is cool is that I don't do a lot of tutorials on this kind of stuff because truthfully, like I don't want to get involved in the YouTube space of it. But I think it'd be cool if we could just have like this dialogue. I'll talk to you about something in a second. Let me do this. So here, inside of masking, on the masking side, if you are not already aware, this masking tool is fantastic, but it requires a little bit of working around. But it's something that I'm noticing. I wanted to bring it up because it's something that I'm noticing that a lot of people haven't done yet. You have select subject, right? You click on that, it makes a subject, right? It says, what is the subject of the picture? It takes it and it puts it up here. Sky, you could do sky, background, you could do a background. Objects is pretty good. But more importantly to me is this. If you hover over people, there's person one, there's person two, three, four, five, six. Immediately takes care of all of this. Now, here's the part that I think is neat. Let's say, for example, Right now, the thing that I want to be able to adjust is I want to be able to adjust person 3. And notice I could do the entire person, or face, body skin, sclera, that's the white of the eyes, lips, hair, or clothes. So let's say that I want to be able to take the clothes and I want to be able to do some stuff with that. But I kind of want to juice up all of the clothes. I could just come over here to go to add people. Go to this one, and let's add that one and this one. I don't really want to juice up the red in this one area. I'm going to click on continue. Once I have all of this stuff set, what if I don't want the entire people, right? I just want clothes. I can make 5 separate masks or just one individual mask. I'm just going to create an individual mask. There's all of the different clothes. And now let's just say that I'm going to darken them. I'm going to add a little bit of contrast. I'm going to drop a little bit of highlights. Done. They literally have made it to a spot where you can do a lot of this stuff so much easier. Now, we've talked about the generative remove. I wanted to make sure that you knew this, but the reason that I wanted you to know this was because while this is great for doing this, it's still not the best feature for this. This is why. The AI didn't get the pants of the third person's clothes. I presume you have to manually edit that. Yeah, I would manually edit that. Now, the part for me that's awesome is this. Let's see here. I have these people here. I haven't tried this. I hope it works. But they're also here. They're also here. So, I wonder what would happen if I go to here, the third one. Once I've done that, I'm going to click on this button right here that says previous. Basically, what that says is apply the previous effect that you did to this picture. It's updating the AI settings for this, and it makes the adjustments. Not bad. Now, inside of here, we have this mask. Let's say I go to this one, and then I go to previous. Looks like I did that mask. Huh, okay, so it's not doing it for this one. Let's try this one. There's one. It made a liar out of me. I'm going to grab this person. I'm going to add this person. And now let's grab those features. And let's say here, I want to be able to take the clothes. Miss you on Kelby 1. I miss being there sometimes. You know what? I've been so busy with all of the work that I've been doing here. It's been crazy. I'm going to click on this next one. So I made these adjustments. Now I'm going to go to previous. Previous, I saw somebody say, where was the previous button? So the previous button is in the develop module, and it's all the way down at the bottom. You click on previous here, and that's going to apply that previous setting that you did. Notice here. Now, if I moved, right, so I did it to this one, this first one over here, and then I did it to this one. But I could also command click this, command click this. Now I have 3 of them. And notice that now the previous turns into sync. On the sync side, when you click on sync, we've had this before, right? You can sync all of these different settings, but now you have this setting here for masking. And inside of masking, I can click on synchronize. And that is not just taking a brush area. It is saying, find these people, do these adjustments on these people, right? Before, If you try to do this using a sink for a mask, the problem with the sink on the mask is that you would be doing brush strokes. So if that person shifted, that brush stroke would not shift. That's not what's happening here, right? In the Gen AI stuff here, what's happening is it's finding the person, making that selection, then making the selection of the clothes, then applying the effect. So you could theoretically, in this instance, take a bunch of different pictures that are sitting within that same space and automatically apply it, right? So I'm just going to try this one more time here because I want to make sure that it doesn't make a liar out of me, right? If I grab this person here, let's see if this works, right? And then I go over here. Look, it detected that person. So I can detect this person, and we're just going to do something crazy just to show you this, right? Here and here, those two. And now let's just say that we're going to take the entire person and I'm just going to do this just so that we could see it. So that's the change that we made. Now, if I come back over here and I shift click all of these and I go to sync, there's my masking. There's the mask one that I did. I'm going to click on synchronize. I'm done. So I think that's something that I think that you should take into account. Now, it fell down on some of these, but it'll take care of some of that work for you. I also say that to say that sometimes you'll hear people go, oh, well, I'm selling these presets for AI generated presets. I was like, yo, bro, don't buy presets. Don't buy presets. Like when somebody tells you that they're selling adaptive presets that are AI based to be able to do stuff, basically what they're doing is this, right? Grab this inside of here. They'll go into the develop module. They'll go over here, select the sky, drop that, select the background, increase that, and then sell that as a preset. Don't do that. There's no need. Right? Make your own. Right? So inside of here, go to sky, add some contrast, decrease your exposure, right? Increase your whites. And now I'm going to make a new mask and I'm going to say select sky and then I'll invert it and then I'll open some shadows. And now I'm going to come over here, create a preset and add the masking. And I'll call this Italian Nights. I'll do that 40 times, right? I'll create one and then I'll go to drop this to 80 minus 85, make another preset, and I'll call that Italian Nights Subdued. And I'll do that 60 times and then sell you that for $100. Don't do that. Right. You can do it yourself. It's pretty straightforward. Just grab the thing, pay for knowledge and pay for plugins. Save all of that money, buy a monitor. Right. You can do this yourself. You can learn how to do this yourself. Now, those are the two big changes that you would have inside of the Lightroom side. Photoshop, a little bit different. Right. Inside of Photoshop, I'm going to right click here. Let me just go ahead and I'll go ahead and I'll share my screen here. All right. Here's a cool picture. I'm going to do a treatment to this. Do you guys think here, actually, why don't I take a comment? What kinds of stuff would you do? Yeah. And with a shiny new, I'm just reading that. And with a big new shiny monitor, stuff is going to look great out of the gate. Absolutely. And That's it, man. Celebrate your work. I think that's awesome. What would you do to this picture? Like, what kind of stuff would you want to work on here? I'm curious. Beep, 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 beep. Let me know. I'll come back to it. Let's see here. Reduce shadows, open up the shadows, but keep the feel. When I have a very light and a very dark part of my photo, I struggle to find the balance. Bring up the shadows in the water. Okay. And the lines. Okay. So how would we do this before, right? Like we'd have to go in and make a mask and do the and whatever. Like, all right. So how would I do this here? I would go to my sky, select my sky, increase the exposure, but you can't do it too much because you're going to wind up getting rid of the wisps of the clouds. So I probably drop my highlights. And having that said, then I'll increase the whites to kind of pull that out. Now I have a big section here that has a whole bunch of shadow. So theoretically, I could come over here and create a new mask and I could use, I'm using a lot more the objects mask. I like the objects mask because you have two different options, right? You have a brush option, you have a square option. I'm going to use my brush option. Let's see if this works. Put that right there. Huh, that's pretty good. Thank you, AI. I had no idea that I was going to do that. And again, is it going to be perfect? No. But at any point in time, I could come over here and add. And if I needed a manual brush, I can add a manual brush. But I'm probably just going to keep rolling the dice with the objects, right? I go over here. That's good. And I add an object. Oop. Yeah, I just clicked it. That's not bad. All right. So now I'll open the shadows there a little bit. Increase my exposure just a tiny bit. I got to be careful right here. And then from here, I would probably add a linear gradient that goes like this. And if I wanted to, what I would do is I would probably subtract an object with a brush and then just do that. And then just open the shadows on this. For now, I think that's okay, right? Before, after, I'm using the backslash key. I probably juice it a little bit. All right, go back over here and give it a little bit of a vibrance, a little contrast to the picture. Now, from here, I'm going to right click, edit, and I'm going to go to Photoshop. Tony, it's one of those things where you said like you make it easier than when I do it. I would argue like I've done this a lot, right? Whatever it is that you do, I'm sure that you make it look easier than when I do it. That's the other thing that I usually tell people. Not that I want to turn it into a giant self-help thing, but sometimes what happens is you start taking a look at this kind of stuff and it's like, oh man, that was so fast and that was so this. I was like, yeah, I would like to think so. Like I've been doing it for 20 years, right? You can do this, right? It doesn't the speed doesn't matter. If you want to learn how to do this and you want to work on how to do this, we can go through it. I want to do a webinar with BenQ where you guys send pictures or I talk to you about some techniques and then you do it and then we come back and we meet. Like we do this. We did this a couple of years ago with like a summer school. But I think it would be really cool if we all collectively got together as a group and said, all right, well, let's learn. Let's practice on one thing, then everybody submit it, and then we do feedback, almost kind of like a real class. You know, for those who were saying that they were missing me at Kelby One, that was one of the big problems that I had there. I always felt like I was shouting, right? I was talking about something, but I never really got to follow as many people as I could to see the progress, right? And at the end of the day, like I'm just a teacher. Like I just like teaching this stuff. So for me, anytime that I can kind of do that and follow that progress is something that's cool with me. So If you guys think it's great, then obviously let the folks at BenQ know. Like, I think it's something that we could create this like little cohort that can go through all of these different types of things. So, all right, let me get back to this. So inside of here, right? So now we have this. And what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to take a look at all of the different tools that I have, things that you might not know that you have, right? You have this object selection tool. The object selection tool allows you to be able to hover over specific things or drag over specific things and create selections around stuff. That I think is pretty cool. Once you have that set, you can then use your generative fill section to fill that one area. And having that then filled, beep, 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 beep. So it's not bad. One, two, I didn't do a great job, right? So there was a lot of that trial and error, which I thought kind of sucked. However, it is super helpful in some instances. The new one, though, is inside of here, inside of your patch tool, wherever you find your patch tool stuff. With the patch tool, there's this one section now called the remove tool. Now, with the remove tool, a lot of the times, I would argue that it's a good idea for you to just make a new layer, right? And now that you have the layer selected with this remove tool, you can go ahead and notice that there's a mode here at the very top that says auto may use generative AI, or there's generative AI on, generative AI off, right? So let's just use the auto and I'm going to click. Oh, image is transparent. They must have broke it. Inside of here, I want to check on this box, sample content from all visible layers. Remember that I'm using this blank layer here, so I didn't see anything. Click here, drag. Now it's going to chugga, 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 use the AI stuff, and gone. That's not bad. But it gets better, right? Because you have this thing right here at the very, very top called Find Distractions. And inside of the Find Distraction section, look, one-click removal, wires and cables. I wonder what it's going to do for this. So, yes, absolutely, Byron, the sample from all layers button, I can't tell you how many times people are like, it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And it's so innocuous. It's like right there, right? If you don't click on it, especially if you do wind up doing work on multiple layers, like that's something you kind of need, right? So, new blank layer, and then inside of here, find distractions, wires and cables. It also keeps it non-destructive. Absolutely. Now, here's the question that I would say is I don't want to go away from it because I do want to kind of just have that ta-da moment. But why would you have a how about mic stands? That'd be awesome if it did mic stands, right? Jim is a phenomenal concert photographer. He's a phenomenal photographer, but I love his concert stuff. Now, why would I use Gen AI versus non-Gen AI? Or why would I want to be able to turn it off? Well, I still argue that there is a certain amount of craft work that goes into the photography side of things, right? So I happen to think that the whole picture here with those lines works. Oh, hold up a second. Let me just check one more thing. Hold up. Be right back.
All right, how's everyone liking it so far? I think he's doing great. He's super informative. Love how interactive he is. Yeah, I love seeing the workflows of these creatives as well. It's really eye-opening to see like how someone does one thing is completely different from how you may do something. Really puts into perspective and shows you like more ways on how to reach your destination.
Never mind. I can't find it. I was trying to find I was trying to find another picture that I did, and I couldn't find it. Now, where were we? We were in this. Oh, what were we doing? We were talking about. I'm just trying to catch up on the questions here. Some competitions don't offer generative AI. Yeah, that's one, right? The second one is if you post stuff on Instagram, you could get into a spot where all of a sudden it'll get flagged as something with AI. Now, not bad, not great, but not bad. It's becoming a bit of a regular thing for me artistically, and it's really a new dimension. Yes, I would argue, I would argue that AI does increase a little bit of a thing. And also, all right, so that was pretty much it. Let me just show you something else. What do I tend to use AI for on the creative space, right? So the generative remove was the feature. The removal tool is a great feature. Um, Sometimes I'll do this, right? So there's my dog, and she's literally like right behind me. But let's just say, for example, uh, I'm gonna do my crop tool. I'm going to take that crop tool and I'm going to flip it by just clicking on this little button right here to flip it. And while we're inside of here, you see right here at the very top where it says fill with transparent. A lot of the times I'll set this with generative expand, and then I'll drag this up like so. Hit the enter key. Let's see what happens. There's option one, option two, option three. Now, I'm going to keep option one, right? Then from there, I'll usually put in a curves adjustment layer, drag this down, and then do a gradient that goes from here to here. And while that looks dumb, what I tend to use that for is iPhone wallpapers. Like this is where the clock is going to be, so I don't really much care. I'll turn around and grab something like this and then just leave that as so, merge this down, and I'm going to use that as a clock face. So from a creative standpoint, let's see. Obviously, you can expand backgrounds and you can do all that kind of stuff. That's a little bit more on the artistic side, which I totally do. Um, but in a blast, those are just a couple of the quick features on how to be able to do stuff. Some questions. One of the things that we're talking about, and another thing I'd love to get your take on this is, would you guys want to do something on AI that's just all AI? A lot of the stuff that I'm doing right now is I'm actually working on my doctorate on AI research and knowledge transfer in AI research. So I've spent a lot of time doing stuff with AI things. Oh, here, I'll do a little bonus. Hold up. Richie's like, don't do any bonuses. Let's see here. I'm going to copy this. Oh, wait, hold up. I'll share. I'll copy that. Don't want to save that. Don't want to save that. Paste. Oh, I didn't paste it. Okay. Let's do this. Inside of here, I'm just going to export this picture. There. And close this. And once I do that, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to Hailuo. And inside of Hailuo, so this is an uh, how to expand backgrounds. Do you want to know how to expand a background? So let's edit here. Quite literally, what you would do here is you would just use your crop tool. And rather than using your crop tool for transparent, just set it to generative expand and then drag to expand your background, right? If you want to expand it on two sides, let's see, do I have a model that I can do that with? Hold up. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's Jaden. Let's bring him into Lightroom, right? I would set my crop tool, generative expand, drag on this side, drag on this side. We'll let that run. Then we'll let this run. And then in the middle of that, I'm going to come over here to Hailuo and I'm going to grab a picture. Let's see. And I'm just going to put in water slowly moving towards you while gondolas come in and out in Venice. Let's see what happens. So there's our background. That's not too bad. Now, another way that you could do this is you could extend the background transparently, right? Click here, drag this way, and let's just say that that's the background that you wanted. For that, then I would use a marquee lasso tool, select that one area, and use your content, your generative fill in that one section. That would be using a Gen AI. So now that's a second way to do it. Another way you could do it is, let's just say inside of here, right? Let's say that we expand it. All I did was use the crop tool, hold down the option key, and drag from the sides and leave it as transparent. Once that's transparent, I could go to select subject. There's my selection of the subject. I'm going to go to select, save selection, and I'll call this Jaden. Deselect, and then I'll go to edit. Inside of here, content aware scale. And under the content aware scale, you would have two options, right? You would have this option here that protects people. And you could also have an option here that says protect, and the save selection that I have is Jaden. Now, if I hold on the Alt key and go on both sides, or Alt and Shift, no, not so much. That could have worked. Jaden would not like that. That's where the Gen AI is a much better way to be able to do stuff. Now, let's go back to Hailuo. Hailuo is still working. But I think that we're at a spot right now. Like one of the things that I've been working on the AI side is this whole concept of while everybody thinks that the whole AI situation is it's going to take a lot of different jobs, I think that there's a lot of individuals that are part of this digital divide that aren't even being addressed. Like there's a lot of stuff that's happening right now that really does feel like a lot to a lot of people like witchcraft, right? Because I'll let you read this on your own. But like here, if you take a look, I talked about this on my blog, right? So if you go to About RC, inside of here, I wound up doing this entire thing based on this Irish drinking song, right? We wound up creating these AI based characters that we then brought into these AI based composite things, right? This was all done using Photoshop. This was done using Vanishing Point in Photoshop. And then we grabbed the entire thing and we started animating it and then running it into Premiere. And we created this entire cartoon like in a day and a half. I'm just going to show you just a couple of seconds inside of here. But, oh, it doesn't let me share sound. Yeah. Anyway, I would have shown that to you. But what I would say is just go to aboutrc.com and take a look at that video. It's a really interesting thing where it's like all of this stuff, we wanted to create like this Tim Burton-y kind of cartoon, and all of this was done using generative AI. And we created like these cartoon animations, and we created this like battle between a leprechaun and a person battling over a potato. So there's a bunch of different things. If we want to be able to talk about how to do that, I'm also happy to be able to do that. Right? We don't have to just talk about Lightroom and Photoshop. Cool. Let's see if we can come up with these little classroom sections. I would love to be able to help in any way that I can.
Great idea, RC. Yeah, thank you for taking your time today, for showing us your workflow. It was great learning from you. Have some questions. If you guys have any extra questions, feel free to drop them in. So, from Popa, what is your opinion about a low budget calibration tool?
So right now I would say that the not in terms of a low budget, I would let me see how expensive they are right now. If I were to recommend, right, I would take a look at Calibrites, right? Right. You could probably get away with, you could probably get away with a display 123. I'd say either display 123 or display pro. Like I think those would be pretty good. And again, the calibration portion of things isn't really all that hard either. Like if we do that, if I do like that video, the start to finish video, we'll throw in some calibration and we'll be like, look, this is how you calibrate the monitor. Put the thing on the thing, run the software, and you're done. So, but they do make it really easy for you to do that.
Okay, had a question from Ian. The built-in calibration with BenQ monitors, are they good enough? Ian, yes, they are. If you're getting PD or SW, they all come factory calibrated, and they all also both offer calibration support with Palette Master Ultimate. RC, if you're able to talk on that question a bit, feel free.
No, I mean That's pretty much it. We can throw that into the video as well. I mean, I can say that I have not had a problem having accurate color either out of the box or through hardware calibration. Like it's always been pretty phenomenal.
Hey, and then a question from George. Got the TD3220, it's either 20 or 25U 2 days ago. How do we keep it calibrated? Yeah, just spoke on that. You have to download the Palette Master Ultimate software, available on our website. You should see something in your packaging as well. But it's a free software to ensure your colors remain consistent throughout its longevity. And okay, another question from Bob. Do you use different color settings to edit images in Lightroom and something different like D6500 to print? Something different for web browsing? Curious how you use color settings with your monitor and workflow.
I a lot of the times, to be honest with you, it stays right out of Lightroom. It doesn't go into anything else. It goes straight into the print. And so far, it's been pretty good. Like, I kind of want the result to just kind of be good, right? Like, I don't want to do any extra stuff.
Hear that as quickly and efficient as possible. A question from Tom. He has a SW240 and a 24-inch from another brand, so two 24-inch monitors. Would you recommend one large monitor instead of for photo editing? He understands that it's pretty well impossible to get two monitors color matched.
I have, now, full disclosure, I have two monitors, right? So I literally have like a blown a hole in the wall and I have the camera like all the way over here, and then I have one monitor here and one monitor here, the exact same monitors. Um, I find that I've had 27s and 32s from BenQ and have not had a problem with them side by side. However, I have a small, uh, I have a small, can I say another brand? Like a Samsung. Like I have another monitor, at school, and I've been wanting to get another monitor at school, like a big 32-inch monitor at school. So I've unbolted this one and put it at school. And when I'm showing students side by side, it's painful. Like it's absolutely painful to do that because they're like, why does this not look like that? And I'm like, well, that's kind of what it's supposed to look like. It's not supposed to look like that. Right. So yes, right. Especially, and it's one of those things where it's like I would probably opt towards a bigger monitor if you're gonna choose, if you're not gonna get two equal BenQ monitors, I would opt for a bigger one. Because then what's gonna happen is it's just gonna want to, you're gonna keep looking at the other one and being like, why do you suck? Like, why do you not like? It's hard. That's a hard adjustment.
Yeah, definitely. And then a question from Jody. What do you think of the Datacolor Spider X Pro for calibration?
I think they're great. I think they're great. If that's what you have, I mean, I would just say the more important part is just to calibrate, right?
Mm. Yeah, definitely agree. Question from David. Do you think it's worth waiting for the 5K monitor from BenQ for a new M4 MacBook? David, I can speak on that a little bit. RC, you can chime in as well. If you truly value 5K, specifically over 4K, I personally do think it is worth waiting. Then, see, I don't know if you have uh, any opinion
Yeah,
on
I
that.
mean, it just depends on how critical the work that it is that you're doing, right? If you're a
Mm.
hobbyist, then I would wait it out, right? If you're doing a lot of work that's going to require color critical stuff, resale value is pretty good. And like,
Yeah, okay. And then a question from Andrew. He says, when using the sky mask, can you demonstrate how to blend the junction of a landscape and the sky so that the junction is blended?
oh, okay. A lot of the times, what I would do for that is what you're trying to create, you're trying to darken your sky. Let me understand what the question was.
Yeah, blend the junction of a landscape and the sky so that the junction is blended.
I would do that if you want complete control. I happen to think that I've had really good success. If you want complete control, the way that I would probably do it is Let's see. I probably would still do it kind of a little old school. Let me see. So inside of here, right? If I were to grab this, and let's just say that I do something like this, just to kind of do something different, right? So there's one image. I probably would, if I wanted great control, I would create a virtual copy on this, reset that out, and then make my adjustments for, let's say, the front, right? So inside of here, let's say subject. Oh, here, let's see. Create a new mask, linear gradient. Let's do that. Let's open that up a little bit. Then I would grab this and this, right click, edit in, open as layers. Inside of Photoshop now, if I were to go to my layers panel, I have both these pictures, right? I could do a select sky right from inside of here that uses the AI stuff, mask that, and from here, using this mask, I would use a brush with a low flow, with opacity, and then just kind of come into these some of these sections and just start moving some of this stuff around. Because then at that point, you would have brush control over everything that you needed to do. Now, if you have a problem with the picture, send me the pictures, right? Go rc.com and maybe I can just do a quick tutorial and send it to you.
Then we got time for one more question. In the future, Lightroom will have a scanning option. At the moment, he's scanning this year's negatives, and the workflow is not cooperating. Scan with Epson Soft, then the Lightroom to make small, or Photoshop to lean the dust from the negative.
Where was that? Let me see.
That was from Papa.
Oh, will they have a scanning option? I unfortunately could not confirm or deny whether or not they're doing something for a scanning option, only because of NDAs or things like that. I can tell you that a lot of the scanning stuff that I tend to do is I tend to shoot, right? So I have a table and then I shoot down into the table and then I bring it into another piece of software.
All right. All right, that's all the time we have today. Everyone, thank you so much for your participation. Thank you for letting us know where you guys are tuning in from. It's great to see you guys all over the world. Thank you so much, RC, for showing us your workflow. It was great learning from you. I loved how interactive this session was. So whether you're doing photo editing or design work, I hope everyone here was able to take something away from this webinar. For those of you who want to reference this recording at a later date, it'll be uploaded to our YouTube soon and sent out to all of you in the email. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning in on this wonderful Friday afternoon. Have a great rest of your day. This is our last webinar of 2024, so happy holidays. We'll see you in January. RC, if there's anything you'd like to say before you tune out, floor is yours.
Oh, that's it. Happy holiday. Hug your loved ones. And if there's anything that I can help, you can find me on social about RC.
All right, take care, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.